Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride. What was that? On a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, take it away, Jeffrey.
I'm your Santa backing track at best, man. That's it.
You could have kind of got it gone.
I gave you a ho, ho, ho. It was on beat and everything.
You could go, if I sing Dashing Through the Snow, you could go, da, 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 and then we could like kind of build it up from there, and maybe your wife could come in and...
I just realized I could never perform musically. I mean, I dabble with music, but like you called me out on that right there, and I can't even remember the words to Jingle Bells. What was that? I don't even know the words to that.
Jingle Bells and then Dashing Through the Snow. Well, as a kid, it was Jingle Bells, Batman Smells, Robin. Oh, Matt Davis has cancelled. Right. So before we launched, Matt Davis said that if we do not break out into song, he will form a riot, and there has now been no riot. So there you go. Guys,
you always bow to the demands of terrorists.
Thankfully, Matt Davis is not a terrorist. He is just sometimes quite angry and riots.
In hindsight, that's why I listened to the way I said that, and I did not need to reply.
Sorry, Matt. Matt's going to riot now because of what you just said.
Matt, I did not mean anything by that.
Oh, my gosh.
And 1 minute in, Jeff's put his foot in his mouth. Hello, everybody.
Hey, everybody. So, all right. Well, let's kick off. First of all, welcome to the live stream. This is Lee Jackson and Jeffrey Patch, or The Patch, as I will refer to him for the rest of this call, which will probably drive him insane.
Actually, I like that.
All right. Let's call him The Patch. Hey, The Patch.
Now, when you do the eyebrows, though,
you then start to feel conflicted. I understand it happens to most guys.
People are watching this.
there are quite a few. There's 6 people watching this as well, by the way.
That's
all right. So
I'm
on Facebook. Yeah, they're all watching you. They're here for you. So I'm Lee Jackson, the founder of the WP Innovator podcast. So you're totally aware of that, and you will have hopefully met Jeffrey in the group. Maybe you're even a part of his group as well. And if you're not, I do recommend you go ahead and type in Digital Agency Profits into Facebook, so you can go and find his group as well. And he was recently on the show as a legendary guest talking about his agency and how he shifted from doing all the free maintenance to actually making a business out of it. And that's a freaking brilliant podcast because you are a freaking brilliant guy. So how about you give us an introduction about yourself, brother?
Thank you, sir. So that was a pretty good one. But if you didn't hear the podcast or you don't know a little bit more about me, I have my own creative agency called Dizzy Creative. And like Lee said, we kind of pivoted a little bit this year, or a little over a year ago now, to work more on just WordPress maintenance and technical aspects of that. But we still take a few client projects a year, and we still have our own struggles. And I know you probably do too. And we're gonna what did I say? I was gonna say shoot the what, but I'm gonna keep my language clear for you today.
No worries. Well, I mean, you've already accused one person of being a terrorist, so it's. I'm pretty sure Matt dropped out. Hang on.
Really? No,
Matt actually said something. Only a terrorist when waiting for client content. I hear you, man.
That's good. I think we can accept that one.
We can accept that. So what we're going to do, guys, just so you know what the flow of this is going to be, is we've done the introductions, and we will essentially do an introduction, just set the scene. So we're going to set the scene. Then we're going to go into some questions that we've had. So we've been advertising this out amongst both our groups now for the last, 3 days. And we've collated some questions. Thank you, everybody. We got tons of questions, which is phenomenal, which is great ideas for blog posts as well for me and Jeffrey, as well as future live streams. So we're going to try and cover off some of them. We've picked a handful because we only have an hour. And what we want to do is hit some of these questions with the best of our ability, and then open up for some other questions as well from anyone who is watching live who may want to ask. I am going to caveat everything with the fact that me and Jeffrey, well, maybe Jeffrey does, but I certainly don't know everything. And I believe you agree here, mate, that we are also stressed out agency owners ourselves. Like, we're not doing this because we've got it nailed. We're doing this because we have some experience, which might be helpful, but also we want to learn from everybody else as well. We want to learn from each other, and we want to learn from people in the comments as well as we talk, which should be awesome.
That's the best part about these groups. I mean, whether they're our groups or not any of the other ones, there's some bad ones, but there's some great Facebook groups out there. And it's just, there's this community now where we can feed off of each other. And we can learn, and we can start to realize that, like you and I, we've got plenty of things to give back. Other people have got plenty of things to give back. So it's just a matter of everyone kind of stopping and looking at what they're good at, and finding out where they can seek help too. And so hopefully it's some good info for people today.
Absolutely. All right, so let's kick off then with reviewing some of the questions that we've had. So there's about 5 or 6 questions. Again, if you've asked a question and we don't get time to cover it today, then we are sorry, but we will make sure we do either an upcoming live stream or we'll cover it off in a podcast in the future, because I want to do lots of collab with this man because he's pretty cool. And we're not talking about music or rapping or any of that sort of stuff. We're talking agency collaboration. That sounds cool for the nation. All right, mate, over to you.
All right. Our first question. This is from Mark Whirl. Mark, I hope I'm saying your last name right. It's actually kind of 2 questions. Peter Freeman asked a similar one, so I'll read both of them. Mark said, the balancing act of project work and building the business. What's the best way to keep relationships strong and most practical and the most practical business model? And then Peter kind of on that note too, was looking at info on just balancing, doing the work and building his business further.
And these are pretty huge. These are pretty huge questions.
Those are deep questions to open up with.
They really are. And I got to admit, I mean, I'll share a story with you. A few years ago, when I was in my old agency, what we found we were doing a lot of the time was working our butts off to get lots of business in. And then when we had all the business in, we would take our foot off the marketing pedal, as it were, and throw ourselves wholeheartedly into getting whatever the projects were done, which then meant before we knew it, we were giving great service to this group of people. But what we'd forgotten to do was to keep pushing that marketing muscle. So suddenly we were nearing the end of all these projects, and we would see that there was September, October, November with absolutely nothing in the pipelines. There was no sales in the pipeline. And then we were stressing out again because, it was almost like starting the business over. You have to go out and try and find new opportunities, build up new relationships. I was like networking like a madman, long nights, sending email campaigns, trying to think up clever things just to get the next couple of months covered in the pipeline. And then we would make the exact same mistake again. We would then just focus on that new lot of business that we just won for the pipeline, scrape everyone's salaries as well, just get in there with the last bit of money. And we used to do things like factoring, which sucked, just to try and get the cash flow going. And then we'd focus again on those projects. And it was really, really bad, a really bad model. I mean, we changed, obviously. We did it a few times, and then we realized how stressful it was. And if you can see the video, you can see how much hair I lost, basically all of it. And what we realized we needed to do, well, there's 2 things that we realized we needed to do. I heard a podcast many years ago, and someone said something on it that kind of changed my life, and that was sell every day. And that doesn't mean like spend half a day doing sales and cheesy sales calls and all that sort of stuff. It just means doing one specific marketing activity per day. And that could be sharing on social media, creating some content again and sharing that on social media. It could be calling an existing client who has worked with you in the past and having a friendly conversation and find out what's going on in their lives. But just planning a 10 or 20 minutes, some form of marketing activity every single day. And I've got that on my calendar, and I do one thing every day. Sometimes I do a lot more than one thing, but if at the very minimum I can do one marketing activity per day, then I know that I am looking after the future, because people are going to remember me. People are going to see me. They're going to see what I'm doing. And, hopefully the opportunities will come in. And what does happen, because I'm doing these regular touch points of marketing activities, I'm getting emails coming into me. I'm not chasing for the leads. The actual leads are coming into our business. So these new potential projects are coming in that way. The other thing that in my own experience as well is I recommend that we treat ourselves just as importantly, if not more importantly, than our clients. It's actually our responsibility to run a good, solid business. And it's our responsibility to put ourselves first to the benefit of our clients, because if we go bust, we're of no use to our clients. So we are actually the most important customer before our clients are. And that probably tips everything on their head, because everyone hears the customer is always right and all of that sort of stuff. But I've learned over time that if you don't look after your own business first before your clients, then there is no business for you to support your clients with. I don't mean ignore your clients, but I mean actually schedule time in for your business, schedule time to update your website, schedule time to perform whatever these marketing activities are, etc. If your website needs updating and you're updating everyone else's websites instead, there's a problem. You need to put on your calendar a couple of hours here and a couple of hours there. Now, on Wednesday, we're going to be announcing something pretty huge. So when you watch this back, you will understand that I have had to make sure I put my business on the calendar as a just as important calendar item, non-cancelable, non-changeable than my clients, because we are doing something pretty freaking huge, and this taken a lot of time. So it's really important to treat yourself as important as your client. Put time on the calendar. So that's two things from me. There is, I'm sure, more to flow from the brain of the Jeff. How about you share some ideas or thoughts?
I did, yeah. I actually kind of had a slightly different take, and everything you said was spot on.
What? Like, are we going to have a disagreement?
100%. No, I think we're saying the same things, different ways. But you were kind of focusing on putting time back into marketing, and I suppose this could be marketing or product development. But one of the things that evolved out of those lulls for us, and I fully admit that our agency's never been the biggest. I mean, we're very small. We're a very small time agency, but I like it that way, and I have like no desire to get too much bigger. But during those downtimes, because we've been there 100 times, well, maybe not 100 times, but I mean, we've been there, you know what I mean? Those projects end and oh my goodness, I wasn't doing anything to keep that pipeline going. And that's kind of how, like, for us, at least it was Maintain Press, we started kind of evolving and product sizing our services. So maybe when there's extra time in there, look at those services that you're doing all the time. And can you turn those into a product? Can you sell those to people that aren't just your ongoing clients that you're dealing with all the time? Not everything has to be a big web build or, an app development or whatever your agency does. There's lower hanging fruit out there that you could probably be seeking, especially when times are slow. I mean, that's when you should start jumping on things like that. Start developing that, test it with somebody, see how your next workflow goes.
That's good. Just being able to generate leads from your existing clients, especially on those difficult times. For example, in your own experience, there is maintenance. There are potentially clients you don't have maintenance support contracts with, or there are clients that are not interested in that particularly, but you could at least sell a one-off, hey, your website is super out of date and there have been a whole load of security updates. So how about X dollars and I'll update your website and get you to the latest version or something like that. So there's a whole load of...
That's exactly how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of potential things. Or I've noticed, I mean, if you imagine, we've built websites now, maybe 2 or 3 years old, and they're all still live. And there's been a hell of a lot of changes in browsers as well. So there is the browser update program that you could be reaching out to all of your clients and saying, hey guys, when we built your website, we were rocking Firefox 1. Now then, lots of things have changed. And how about we enter into some sort of exercise where we update your code and make sure everything is rocking and rolling to the latest and greatest changes? Because that's not a negative on your code. It's just the fact that every single browser, especially Safari at the moment, that's driving me mad. It's the new Internet Explorer. They translate things differently and they create bugs of their own, and things evolve, and HTML is evolving as well. So that is something that we only started doing recently when we realized we had some of these old sites, and I was testing them and I was like, man, that's broken. We need to solve that. And that's a potential service as well.
How many times have you looked back and went, ooh, we should have done that differently? Or are you able to look at it and say, that's just time, that's just change, that's technology evolving?
Every single time. Because we're creatives and we're never happy. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, no, just the other day I went, why did I do it like this? Oh man, and then I'm like, I'll take care of it because I don't want them to. But 4 years ago when the site was built, it was a smart idea. Now things are a little bit different, but if we were maybe maintaining that full time, it'd be a different story. But no, I mean, we get there, things change, and you grow, you learn more. We're talking about technology, but your tools evolve, your stack changes and all that. But that happens, and sometimes you do go back and you go, maybe I'm gonna retweak that process this next time.
I like it. Well, Mark and Peter, I hope that helps. So we've talked about if you have got to a position where you don't have a good pipeline coming up, then there's some low-hanging fruit that you can go for. There's also the selling every day technique, which includes reaching out to your existing customers. That will cover yours, Mark, well, with regards to keeping those relationships strong, etc. And also treating your own business as importantly, if that's a word, as the client's businesses as well, because we all have a responsibility to be running a good, strong agency that we can continue on into the future to support the people that we love and we support, and maybe we hate a few of our clients, but that might be a bad thing. But anyway, one last thing I would throw in there as well, which is a really good segue. I would actually like to buy a Segway. Anyway, which is a really good segue to our next question, is also, to have a coach of some sort or a mentor to help you. There's two types of mentors. There's mentors that people who are just people who inspire you, but there is also kind of a mentor / coach, someone who can actually have an understanding of your business and an understanding of you and give you an outside in advice and help and support to grow your business. So having someone else who has been in business or is in business and run something successful, being able to help you along the way, super important. So let's go on to that next question. And the question to you, this is from Paul Lacey. Paul Lacey, fellow gorgeous, handsome, bold guy, along with Todd, who is also a fellow gorgeous, handsome, bold guy. There's quite a few bold guys in the WP Innovator group. We love them.
Going on in the air.
That's how stressed. That is actually how stressed the agency owners are. We need a gallery, don't we? We need a pre-hair loss gallery.
Can you write a commercial right now for like a pharmaceutical drug where the pharmaceutical drug is running a web agency and the side effects are losing your hair and buying microphones, setting up green screens in your office?
That'd be amazing. There's Paul on the screen. Paul has just arrived as well, just in time for his question. Let me read the question out then. And it is this. It's not that one. It's this one. All right. So Paul says, who are your mentors? How have they influenced your roadmap for 2018? With love, Paul Lacey. Kiss, 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 kiss. I added that bit. Jeff, the patch.
This sounds so cheesy, but my dad. My dad is like my number one hero and mentor. And for a lot of ways, or for a lot of reasons, but probably number one is because even though he's not an entrepreneur, he's been a sales guy his whole life. He's never, we have no connection in this world necessarily, but he asks me the hard questions. We meet up for breakfast all the time, and he'll go, how's business? How's it going? I go, I just signed this many clients. And then he'll ask me something real tough, like, so how much money is that in the bank every month? And I'm, oh man, Dad, you just called me out. Jeez, So then I go back and I rewind and I look at everything. And then the next time we have breakfast, I'm able to answer. I go, well, actually, and I give him that answer that I was able to actually figure out. But yeah, he does that all the time. He calls me out, but I like that kind of challenging. And then this is a little different, not necessarily a mentor, maybe it is, but you talked about a coach, and we've talked about it 1,000 times, but WP Elevation, Troy Dean, everybody in that group, all the coaches, all the mentors, and literally all the people. All the what am I trying to say? Members, everybody in there. It's such a great place, and I've gotten more mentorship just out of people in that group than I've ever been able to in my career. And I've been doing this like almost 20 years or something like that. So yeah, that's my two answers. And I know that you've got a better one. I know that you have got a good one. So drop it on us.
Do I? Oh, yeah. No, that's a lot of pressure. I would agree, before we go into mine as well, that we certainly, if you are not part of WP Elevation, we're a part of WP Elevation, so is Mr. Patch. But it is a great place. Troy Dean is a freaking legend. Love the guy. He's always got time for good conversation. He's in the group helping, etc. But also everybody within that group, it's a whole load of WordPress consultants who are all helping each other out. So if you are very focused on WordPress consultancy, you probably want to be a part of that. I think they're going to do another opening in March time. So keep your eye out. We'll make sure we let you know when that happens. All right. My mentors, one of them is dead, is Walt Disney. Yeah, Walt Disney. I would so love to have met the guy, but the reason it's Walt Disney is I love the hard graft that he put in. So he put in lots of hard graft all of his life, and I found that inspiring. He always dreamt big, and he was an action taker, and he would always ignore the people who would say that it's not going to work. And that's how I like to live my life. I'm not being... I need to make my own mistakes, and he made all of his own mistakes and learn from them and build a really successful business and change lives. And I find the guy inspiring. So I regularly watch documentaries on him. I'll regularly read books about him. I will regularly remind myself of quotes of Mr. Disney as well. So yeah, he is one of my mentors. With regards to a coach, I've been connecting with a young Chris Ducker, who is a fellow bold guy, and we are working together all of 2018, which is going to be super exciting. I can't say much yet, but he's part of why I'm making an announcement in a few days' time. So I'm going to be very vague about that. But you'll find out on Wednesday, the 13th at 4 p.m. GMT, which is 8 a.m. PST. There is going to be an announcement, which we'll be making. But yeah, he's been very much a part of that. He's inspired whatever that is that I'm going to tell you. And he's also going to be heavily involved in my business, both my businesses over the next year, because I have paid to be part of a program of his where he's going to be working with me. So that's super exciting. And I followed his content, like him or hate him. The guy says some really good stuff. And I've always been kind of, I've always, when you find someone you're not sure whether they annoy you, and I think what it is sometimes is I'm projecting my own personal, the things I don't like about myself onto him, which is not fair because he's actually quite.
I hate that he's bald.
Yeah, he's a really nice guy, and he says such great things. And I think because he's saying things that make sense, and I realize that I'm not doing. There's this inner part of me that's like, oh, why are you pointing out the obvious to me that I should have dealt with that I'm still not dealing with? So he's at this present part of my life. He's been influencing me over the last year as I've been consuming his content, and then I've gone ahead and actually invested now with him as well for 2018. To have his help and support over 2018. With regards to kind of other influencers as well, then there have been a key few people in this WP Innovator group, people who've been on the podcast as well, who've become a very close knit circle of friends. So there has been you, Jeffrey, where we've made really good friends. There's kind of a bromance going on here right now. There's Sarah Moore as well. There's Todd, who's currently on the live streams. There's Paul Lacey as well. Paul's been amazing support, and we've had a few private conversations, which have been awesome. Kim Doyle as well, massive influencer in my life. I know a lot of people here love Kim Doyle. She is a complete legend, and she's given me so much time over the last 3 years that I've known her, just giving me Skype calls, sharing a screen, telling me everything that she's up to, like no secrets. She just tells me it as it is, what she's up to, and gives us lots of help and support. In fact, I was on the blower with her the other day, and we're going to do a live stream in a few weeks for Christmas. Few days. We're going to announce that soon. Maybe I shouldn't have announced it early. Sorry, Kim. But yeah, we're going to do something together soon, which is pretty freaking awesome. But it's important, I guess, to wrap up this section, because we could talk about so many people, like the Oscar speech, couldn't we? I want to thank my mom and my dad. But it is really important to have people that influence you in your life, people that you look up to, people that you can emulate, but also people that you can talk to and that can coach you as well. I think that puts a really nice bow on that. And Kim Doyle has just mentioned that she is blushing. You should, because you're a lovely lady. And I know everyone's now going to comment in this live stream saying, yes, Kim, you are freaking awesome.
If you don't know, you will. I hopped on Kim and I got on a call once, 2 months ago. I got to tell you this real fast. I got so much value out of that. And I don't even remember what the point of the call. I think I was thinking about maybe sponsoring or something. And I walked away with that. And I swear, I went back and, refreshed my business from, 30 minutes on Skype with Kim or something. And that wasn't the plan at all. So thank you, Kim. I never got your invoice for your coaching.
Kim, opportunity knocks.
If I get an email, oh boy, I didn't know how much she was going to charge me for that. I have a question for you, sir. Can you recommend this, or me at least, because I'm curious. This is totally selfish. I need a good Walt Disney book or documentary. You mentioned there were some good ones. Can you recommend one for us? And I'll tell you why in a second.
All right. Well, there is a great podcast, which is currently on a hiatus over Christmas, and that's called The Walt Business Show. The host is called Lee Jackson. So you should probably listen to that. Season 2 is out in the new year in January. So that was a blatant plug for me, and that wasn't planned. That was not planned. There is now, oh my gosh. All right. There's a book. There is literally a book about Walt Disney, and I think it's by Bob someone. I'm going to have to go and research. My books are all at home, man.
Well, that's okay. I don't like reading anyway, so documentary.
Hang on. There is another book that is a little. I'm just opening up my Audible because I was listening to it the other day. I'm halfway through. Oh yeah, How to Be Like Walt. That's a very good book. I'm halfway through.
Like Walt.
Yeah, How to Be Like Walt. The other book though, it's by Bob someone, and I need to go find it. I haven't read it for like a couple of years now, but it's a brilliant book, but all about Walt Disney's life. But it kind of gives you a lot of behind the scenes as well. And a few kind of sad moments as well with regards to what he was dealing with. So it's a very kind of personal biography, but it's really, really helpful. A really good read. So why did you ask the question, or did you have to tell me later? Is this like private?
No. I'll tell you right now because it's kind of confusing and convoluted. But I don't know if I told you this. I worked at Disney as a consultant for 10 years to the day.
No way. So
I've been kind of behind the scenes there. But that said, I don't know. I mean, I know about Walt Disney. I know the basics like everybody does, but I don't. Beyond the general things, I've never really, looked at him as a inspiration or anything. So I'm just curious, and I'm thinking, gosh, I spent so much time there. Why don't I? I mean, I've heard stories. Everybody knows how influential and how motivating Walt Disney was. But no. So I've had kind of an interesting look behind the scenes there.
Well, you can come on the podcast in season 2.
I might get sued, but we'll talk about that.
Well, we'll call you Joffrey Pitch.
There you go.
And you can talk in with a slight accent or something like that. Just don't be racist or anything, because like you've already offended one person already.
Sorry, Matt.
I don't think you offended him. All right. If
you guys knew me in real life, you'd know I put my foot in my mouth all the time. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm a pretty nice guy, but I have offended so many people. Like, there's so many people that hate me. And
I think we should have a podcast of all the stories that when you've done that.
Put a voice recorder on me. I'll give you like an hour podcast a day. Just.
Oh man, I used to get into so much trouble as a kid for not thinking, just speaking first. Right? But nowadays, I count 5 in my head before I say things. That's why there's quite a lot of long pauses, because it's the only way I can do it. All right, next question is from Ed Ellingham. Yes. And it's, again, quite a broad question. We are doing the broad questions here. But how do you handle clients and projects efficiently? So we can't give you like a definitive answer, but I think me and Jeff will now share from our experiences of how we manage our communications, etc., with our clients. Go for it, Jeff, for a read.
Well, I was just going to say I don't. So can we move on to the next one?
Oh, okay. So next question. No,
I was just kidding. Though I bet you if you asked everybody watching right now and everybody that's going to see this and everybody that has seen it and everybody that saw it, clicked on it and then closed off real quick, I bet you all of their answers are the same. It's that they could always improve that. They can always improve how we deal with our clients. One of the biggest ones this year is a simple thing. And I don't mean to, talk tech too much or anything, but getting an inbox management. We are working with Teamwork Desk now, and being able to funnel all those requests in, that helps. So, just in one inbox that multiple people can handle, we can keep track of everything. This sounds silly, but even the little stars, or, where they rate your service at the bottom of the email, those little things help. And that's one, kind of big change that we did this last year, for at least a small task, little things. And that was what really, I don't know about you, but the little things are what add up, and I'll go, oh, sure, just do this one little thing. And, 6 hours later, you forgot about that meeting and you forgot about that project that's due at the end of the night because you were just handling one little aspect. So being able to funnel those in there was a big help for us. And then, getting everybody onto a project management system, including, not everyone likes this, you may not want to do it, but including the client or a representative for them.
Yeah.
And one partnership I have, actually, we have somebody at that company that could be someone's job as a project manager, but like he truly injects himself into the business and then is that, interface between the two of us. And so those type of things really help because they start to allow you to communicate better. And I think at the end of the day, it's communication is the number one thing that breaks down and causes your projects and your client services to start struggling. At least that's, how it's been for me over and over and over again. It's that communication breakdown and you got to fix it. So we've kind of been proactive this year and it's paid dividends, absolutely paid dividends.
That's good. On the project management side, I mean, without a project management system, my communication falls apart anyway. I need to have lists. So we've used Basecamps for years. We did move over to Zoho, which is freaking phenomenal, but we've had to start going back into Basecamp because over the last month, unfortunately, Zoho keeps like hanging on us and having connectivity issues and not allowing us access, which has been really frustrating. So I guess a lesson learned there is, if no matter how amazing a tool might look, you absolutely need to find a tool that is reliable. And Basecamp, as frustrating as it can be over time, is still the most reliable product we've ever used. Obviously, for you guys, it's Teamwork. Maybe I should look at Teamwork, because you are now like the 8th person who's mentioned it in the last 2 weeks alone. So maybe I should take a look at that. With regards to what we do, though, is it doesn't necessarily matter which which tool we use with regards to like Basecamp and that for the tracking of all those questions. We could, in theory, just use a forum. What actually helps me hold the whole project together so that we know what sections we're working at is actually creating a Gantt chart. And I believe you can actually do that inside of Teamwork that you were talking about. And that allows you to, and I'm now throwing my hands around on video, so if you're listening to this on the podcast afterwards, you're just going to have to imagine me waving my arms around. But this allows you to place on your calendar almost like a downward staircase along the way, where you can say, okay, this is 2 weeks worth of discovery. And on that 2 weeks of discovery, the owners are going to be the representative that Jeffrey mentioned from that business, and also X and Y from our agency. And you can then put within that kind of snippet of time, you can put your meeting time, you can then put the time you're going to spend actually creating a document based on that meeting, etc. And you can put the individual owners, and you can start to check that off as you go along. So there's going to be a line that moves along as the dates move along. And I can see every single day I've got one mega document that I can look at that shows me all the projects that are happening at the same time, and I can see where we're coming to the end of a particular, you could call it a sprint, you could call it a whatever you want to call it. So I can see I'm coming to the end of a discovery phase, and I need to be checking in with all the members of my team. How are we doing? Have we had all the information we needed from the client to get that finished, etc., etc. When I mention, have we got all that information, the other cool thing about the Gantt chart is that if a client has not provided something that we need, they own that on the Gantt chart. If they don't provide it by the particular date, that means we have to move the date that they deliver whatever that thing is. And we could have everything else hinging off of that. So if they don't provide, for example, the content at the particular point you need the content, and they provide it a week later, that will actually not only affect the entire project by an entire week, potentially, it could actually affect the project by an entire month, depending on if they've done that and there is an upcoming holiday season and you've got tons of your resource on holiday, because you can actually put in the project management system, you can put when people's holidays are. So that's the resources that are available, the specialists, etc. So looking at your Gantt chart every day, you can call the client up and say, hey, Mr. Client, you've not provided us your content yet. There's 2 days left for you to do that. If you are a day late, your project could be delayed by 3 weeks. Seriously, that puts a fire up people's ass, and they give you the content. So having some sort of top-down Gantt chart look at the whole overall project, that one mega, it's a pain in the ass, pardon my French, to update, but it just allows you not to drop the ball on things. And I still drop the ball on things because it is a big Gantt chart and I'm not perfect. And I do upset clients. And if they're watching, I apologize because I have upset. Even last week, I upset a client because, yes, I dropped the ball. No one's perfect. But it is, I would drop so many more balls if it was not for, this constant line that's moving across this mega Gantt chart that I've got. And I can see what's going on, and I can prompt people and remind them that if they don't do this, and it applies to my own team as well, if you don't get this finished, this is going to affect our whole project. This is going to affect when we can invoice, because that's another thing that's so important, isn't it? It's the cash flow during a project, because if you hit a particular milestone, that's when you're going to be able to invoice. And if you're looking at your cash flow forecast as well, you definitely want to invoice that one particular thing, because you want that money in the bank by, I don't know, Christmas, because you need to pay out all the salaries. So that's Oh man, there's someone outside revving their engine. Yes, so really loud.
Cool, man. Let's race.
Let's race. I hope not. But so that's the one thing that kind of helps me hold everything together. That visual across the top. That is me done preaching about Gantt charts.
Well, and if you're not implementing those systems, whatever they are, it doesn't matter which tool. It doesn't matter if you're using a Gantt chart or whatever. But if you're not managing these projects in some way like that, you're not going to have those opportunities to approach your client proactively. Like you mentioned, like you said, hey, this 2-day delay here might cost 3 days down the line. And that was good because I never thought about putting in staff members, holiday vacations and, things like that. If you're not on top of it, you're just going to have to walk up to your client one day with your, hat in hand and say, sorry, I screwed up. And nobody likes that. So, and it's going to happen, like you said, you did it. And I have a story I won't share from about 2 weeks ago, but it happens. No, nothing bad. I just, I don't want to badmouth anybody or anything. But no, when the ball gets dropped, it happens to the best of us. But if you're not on there, and I have to interject also and say, don't get caught up in worrying about the project management software. That's like the biggest question in every group. But what's better, teamwork? And I've been there, and I'm guilty of it because we even have a project management comparison blog post on our site, which is it already needs to be updated. I mean, the software changes so fast. I think we were like all aboard Trello at the time, so we're like, yeah, Trello, and it's free. And now I'm like, shoot. Teamwork can have as much money as they want. I don't care. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It depends on what works for you. And it just, you need to have something. So done is better than perfect in this case. Get on there, get managing and just jump into something. And I wouldn't jump on you're base camp still.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm straddling several for different projects, trying different ones. But like I said, that one thing that keeps the whole thing together is I'm using iTask 3 on the Mac for the Gantt chart, which is separate from any of the project management systems we use. So that just gives me my kind of top-down view.
Yeah, I don't want to change because I don't want to spend another 2 weeks
because you're an old man and change is difficult for old men.
So old.
He's a whole year older than me.
You'll be here too one day.
Okay.
Getting your AARP magazines. Oh, wait, you probably don't get those in England, do you? Do you get that? Do you know what AARP is?
No, I'm just laughing because you said old man stuff.
It's, I don't even know what it stands for, but it's like the magazine you get when you retire in the States.
Oh,
like when
okay.
you hit 65, you get this. So everybody's getting them to like,
we get the Saga magazine here in the UK. I get you. That's good.
There you go. Pop cultures, not pop culture, but our
references.
Anyway. Yeah, whatever. What are we doing? Interruptions. Lee.
What?
Huh?
Hey. Interruptions.
I was trying to interrupt you, but I think
I was trying to interrupt you. What?
Paul, our man Paul, he wanted to know how you deal with interruptions.
Rabbit.
How do you?
What? Rabbit. You don't deal well, then, do you?
I don't. I like honestly can't even get this sentence out right now. And as I tell the kids too, I'm like, I love you guys. Well, I don't even remember what it was now. No, I'm just kidding. But I think we were doing that on purpose, but it worked out perfectly.
It did, didn't it?
No, but I get interrupted all the time, and it's people interrupt you, and my train of thought is like it takes me like 6 minutes to get back on.
Yeah.
So I got to shut the door. I got to put my headphones on. What do you do? How do you stop from being interrupted all day long?
And this was from Paul Lacey. This was the question, wasn't it? From our man, Mr. Paul Lacey, who's hopefully still watching. The man, Paul Lacey. How do I right? Interruptions are one of the biggest drain of any agency, and have absolutely been one of the biggest drains of my own agency. I have not yet managed to avoid interruptions full stop, because I'm very kind-hearted when I see someone basically.
Hey, I like
crying.
your iMac in the back there. What's
yeah? Thanks. See, interruptions. However, what I have chosen to do is put some specific tools in place. Now, for example, the current interruption from Jeffrey, I actually have the power to mute his microphone. So that is one way I could avoid interruptions. All right. But in business, getting serious, because we're just two old men trying to be funny. All right. Interruptions, like I said, just really screw up your time. Trying to get back into something is nearly on as you get older as well. It's nigh on impossible. It does take 6 to 20. It takes me 20 minutes to get back into something. So the first thing we do is we don't have our emails open. So even right now, my emails are not open. I am completely focused on this call. When emails come in, there is something that happens, I think, in the agency owner's brain, that when you see a number appear in the tab of Gmail, which means you have email, or you've got an app at the bottom and you can see the mail app and it says a number, your OCD kicks in and you want that number to be 0 and you want to be going and checking those emails. And then when you start reading those emails, they take you off track. They take you away from what you're doing. You start stressing out about what's been said in the email. You start replying to emails. You start thinking, you know what, that's a real quick thing. I'm going to quickly do that. It's going to take me 5 minutes. And then that's that email done and dusted. And before long, you've actually spent 2 hours in your email, and more email keeps coming in as well. So you've spent 2 hours dealing with all that, and you've wasted a whole load of your day. And then, lo and behold, you have a meeting that's booked, and then you don't get anything done, and you end up working in the evening. So we have our emails closed. The next thing we do is we have a list every day of things that we're going to do, and we actually have them in our calendar. So again, we're working on something. We're going to announce it on Wednesday, but there are particular slots on the calendar where I will be working on that project, but equally there are slots on the calendar where I will be working on a client project as well. So Lee will be doing some development, or Lee will be creating a reverse brief, or he'll be doing something. So these are slots on the calendar. And there is an app. I will put this in the link afterwards. There was one for Mac. I'm sure there's one in for Windows as well. But what it does, it's called Focus, and it allows you to disable everything else other than what you are doing. So you can even disable the internet, disable social media. And I will then have a timer. And I will set whatever that timer is for, 25 minutes, half an hour, an hour. I'm losing my voice now. And I will focus on that one task. So my phone will be off or on silent. The main telephone system of our agency will either be answered by somebody else, or I'll switch it over to the call center. And I will just focus on that one task, and I will get it done. And there's a whole other conversation as well around tasks that I'll probably unpack in an upcoming episode of the podcast, where we can actually understand what are the important tasks. But we grade our tasks, and I'll work on those super important tasks. I've also explained to all of my clients with regards to email that I only check email at 12 o'clock now. I used to check it in the morning, but now I don't. It's 12 o'clock and 4 o'clock. They know they are the only 2 times I answer my emails, and they also understand that I might read an email at 12 o'clock, and if it's not deemed as urgent, I may not even respond to that email until 4 o'clock or the following day. People understand that there is no need for urgency for a lot of those questions. And they have a little bit of a code that they can put into the subject if they need to, which might say action required or urgent action required in the subject, if it's something that is definitely something I need to take a look at. And sometimes they abuse that, but I just reply saying, no, I'll reply to this tomorrow. But it is very much about communicating to your clients, who, when you're going to be working on their stuff, when you're going to be replying to them, and having them understand that email is not like chat. Email should be still treated like you are sending a letter in the post, and it still has to get to the person and be opened and read, and they've then got to sit down and reply. I like to kind of give them that analogy. So there are just a few small things we do. My team obviously will also check our support center, where a lot of the more urgent things come in. They deal with those things, so I don't have to, and they will only come to me in an absolute dire emergency. Like last week when 50 websites went down, that was not cool, but we dealt with it, and that was fine. So there's a few things that we do to manage those interruptions, basically creating space so that it's impossible to have interruptions, having a cheap £20 a month call center taking our calls, or having someone in the team fielding calls, or having set times I check emails, etc., keeping my phone on silent and upside down on the table, those simple sorts of things. How about you, buddy?
Well, I think my struggles come a little more internally than externally, because I have that type of attention span that when I get interrupted, I'm gone. I'm completely taken off of what it was. And it takes me so long. I think I said like 5 or 6 minutes ago, a second ago, but in reality, I mean, it could be, an hour for me to get back on track. And what tends to happen I think it's interrupted by a plane flying by. I don't know if you heard that or not, but cool. We just lost my train of thought. I don't know, but I have one tip. It was the single most valuable thing for me this year for my focus and productivity, and that was turning off Facebook notifications on my phone, and definitely not having them on, your web browser or something on your computer, because I mean, I get notified from stuff on there, but I don't see it unless I go on to Facebook. So I'll pop on for a few minutes and check my notifications, but I do not let my phone flash those for me, because like you said at the beginning, you see those and you want to check them. And I've got myself, I was on Facebook all day long. I was sitting at my desk all day, but you kept checking and refreshing and seeing all that. So I turned those off like 6 months ago, and I don't miss it at all. And I'm still on Facebook, a lot. And I still keep up on pretty much everything, and probably better, because when I actually go on, I've got the time to deal with it. Whereas before, sometimes you might just check something, refresh it, and you never saw that tag, or you said you were going to reply to a message, and now the notification's gone and it's over. But if you just kind of eliminate that, I think it helps keep on track. And that's just me. I've got that ADHD brain, allegedly. I don't know if I have ADHD, but I'm assuming that I do, because
there they go. Let us now reference that movie called Up, where the dog goes, what was it? I just met you and I love you. Squirrel.
Yep, that's me. That is me.
Kim Doyle has just shared something as well, and she's going to put it on screen, saying no is a complete sentence. When you get an interruption, be it a phone call and that, don't be scared to say no, because your time is absolutely valuable. And no has been such an empowering sentence that I have uttered over the last couple of years. And I'm pretty sure that was actually inspired by you, Kim, anyway, when I listened to one of your Kim rants. I don't think you call them rants, but I do. I love them. Love it when you go off on.
I think she, do you, Kim? Please tell. I think she does.
I don't know. I love it when she goes off on one, because I always learn something. So yeah, and so that was a couple of years ago. But yes, no is definitely a sentence. It is a perfectly adequate response to when somebody calls you up and says, quick question. You can stop them even at the point where they're saying quick question, because the answer is not going to be quick.
If it starts with quick question, it's not going to be a quick question.
No, exactly. Well, I've got a quick question for you, and I know the answer is going to be massive. And this is a question that came in from Jeff Walters, and he prefaces the question with pricing. So instantly we're like, oh no, pricing, knowing what to charge for anything to actually be profitable. So that's charge based on value versus hourly, etc. That's in from Jeff Walters. I believe he's a fellow elevationer. So how about you take that one?
Oh, Jeff's cool. We're buddies. That's a quick question. Pricing's really, really easy to talk about. But it's not. Pricing sucks. And especially if and Jeff, I don't mean to assume, but I think you're more of a freelancer than like an agency owner at this point, at least. And then I hope that's not insulting anyway. But I'm still kind of on that side too. My agency is so small that I'm still taking on freelance work myself. I don't funnel every lead through the agency, but that's something I still continue to struggle with. And my hourly rate has gotten to a point to where I say, hey, this is my hourly rate. I'm not going to say what it is on here, but if a client wants to pay it, great. I'm happy. I'm happy that they'll pay that hourly rate. Lee's whispering something. I don't know.
$1 million.
$1 million. But no, it's having confidence in that one, you can provide value at that rate, and two, you're happy being paid that rate, because there's, I'll get jobs that come my way and I go, oh, that sounds great. And it may only be a couple hours, but if I'm making $40, it's not profitable for me to do it. So I don't. So looking at value-based pricing, if you can, for a project, is so much smarter to go around for both people too, because, and I find this funny when I talk to an agency, because we do a lot of white label work, and they'll say, well, what's your hourly rate? And they're trying to judge a project. And I go, well, how many hours do you think the project's going to take? And we have no idea. So then why do you want to know what I charge for an hour? Because I can tell you whatever it is. And then, I could say I charge, $5 an hour, but then I'm going to bill 600 hours for the project. It doesn't make any sense. But if you can figure out the value and, knowing what it's worth to the customer and what it's worth for your time, you can set the scope a lot better. And they know ahead of time, it's in their best interest too. If they know that this project is going to cost $500 flat, let's just say, they know they're paying $500. They don't think they're paying a freelancer $50 an hour for an estimated 10 hours that could be 15, could be 20. you don't know. And then as a freelancer, you might finish it in 5 hours. And if you can finish faster, great, more power to you. But you have to be confident in your value, know what you can bring to the table. I know we're both in WP Elevation, and I know he's heard this before, but they're hiring you or they're talking to you because you can do something that they either can't or they don't have time for. So respect that you provide value to them, and, be confident in it. And you'll figure it out. You'll figure out what your hourly rate needs to be. You'll figure out what value pricing is for people. And it might take eating your hat a couple of times. I am actually glad that I've made mistakes like that. I've done projects where, they went months over budget, over time, and, hundreds or thousands of dollars, but, over budget. I would hate to have a project that went hundreds of thousands of dollars over budget. We're not in that ballpark, but you'll figure it out. You really will. And you'll start to know that this type of job is worth this much to this type of client. And you'll know the type of clients you want to talk to, and the type of work you want to do, and it'll get there. So I know Jeff, he's a smart guy, and I think he's going to make us some big growth this next few months. I've seen everything he's doing in WP Elevation, so it's good. Yeah.
So it is so true, isn't it? One of the things I've said it so many times that people probably roll their eyes when I say it, but it is the price is maybe the hour that it takes plus the 20 years of experience that you have in doing whatever that thing is. Your client is paying you because they can't do it, and for them to learn it, or for them to try and work it out themselves, might take them hours, and they might not even do it very well. So the value is, it might be taking you 1 hour, but the value is $500 for that one thing that you are doing. And there's the story, isn't there, as well, of the guy who, the short version is he fixed a ship by just tapping on a nail and sent them an invoice. It took him 5 minutes to tap on a nail and to fix the entire ship that was losing millions because it couldn't sail. And he sent them an invoice for £10,000, and they said, well, why? Well, it's expensive. You're only on site for 5 minutes. And he said, could you break that down for us, please? And he said, yeah, sure. So he broke it down, and it said time on site, 5 minutes, $5. And then $9,995 for knowing where to tap. Just to fix the ship. And I know it's very easy and kind of high level to say these sorts of things, but you do. I think Jeff is totally right. You have to maybe get the price wrong a few times and welcome those opportunities to learn. I'll admit, I charged £150 to convert a 5-page PSD design into a WordPress theme, and it took me over a week to do it. That was £150, and I thought that was a great idea at the time, but that is absolutely ridiculous that I thought that, because if I did the math, I would have to clone myself multiple times to actually be able to earn a living. So that's what I did wrong, and then I realized I needed to quadruple my prices. That was how much I dared do. I quadrupled at first, and then I ended up quadrupling again, and now my prices are astronomical compared to that original £150. But you do need to go on a bit of a journey, I think, at the beginning, because everyone's clients are different and your own journey is different as well. Someone else once said to me, whatever price you come up with, double it. And I tend to do that quite a lot. It's always easier to start high and come down than it is to try and add later on to any project.
Well, on that note, if you charged £150 and it took you a week, however long you said that was, how long would it take you to do it now?
How long would it take me to do that? That was still that would still take me a week to do. It was a very complicated design WordPress theme from PSD. So that's HTML, CSS, JavaScript, making a WordPress theme. It was very daft of me to have charged £150. So, but I thought I was onto a thing. But then I was competing against people in countries where £150 was a lot of money. So I was totally in the wrong area for that.
Well, the thing is, though, because you've grown that. I know you said it'd probably still take you a week. I don't think it would. You've grown as a developer, as a business person, as a consultant. You're better. So I think just because you've gotten better and you might be able to do it in less time doesn't mean you need to profit any less. And that's why the value pricing makes the best sense, I think, for most people. just because I've gotten so good that, I could do a 10-hour job in an hour, and I'm not really being that conceited, but there's some things that, when I was first starting out, maybe it would take 10 hours. Now I might be able to done it and might be able to do it in 30 or 45 minutes now, just between you improving and technology. I mean,
Beaver Builder didn't exist back then. I mean, Beaver Builder has definitely sped up our workflow. So yeah, I guess we charge more and we spend less time on it now. So that is a very good point. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that covers it. All of our questions for at least this section of the show. And like I said, I think it would be great if we could just spend the last 10 minutes of this live stream answering any questions that you have. We have an audience, which is great. And it would be great to hear from you. Sorry, what was that?
I just almost threw up on your live stream because my coffee was ice cold.
Yes. Well, whilst you're getting over that, just drink that water down, mate. Yeah. Any questions that you may have or any opinions you have, share with me and Jeff whilst we try and fill a little bit of time now, waiting for any questions or opinions to come in. So ask a question, we will show it on the screen and we'll unpack it. Or if you've got a view, we will share that view. And I'm going to scroll through as well whilst we're waiting. Paul said this earlier, and he was saying he was looking at Timeliner for Gantt charts, but hasn't actually tried it yet. So he is encouraged to try it. That's pretty cool. Nice one, Paul. And I would love to know, mate, if you could actually post your experience of that in the group over the next few weeks and just let us know how that goes. Just to also re-show this, Kyle says that Kim rocks. This is an actual fact. The internet already knows it, which is awesome. What else have we got in here? All right, here we go. Kim Doyle, question just in. Tips on finding the right mentor? ? Now we're both going to go silent.
I know. Well, I would say the first thing is somebody that challenges you.
Amen.
Feel challenged. If you get on a call and, or whatever it is, that intro call or face-to-face meeting or even email, they need to be challenging. I mean, I need to. I don't do well with coddling. I need somebody to tell me what I'm doing wrong.
Yes. Finding someone who is not afraid to tell you what is wrong. You don't want to find a yes person. I guess for me as well, the natural mentors for me become the people that of whom's I can never say that right, whose content that I consume a lot. So many years ago, I would have considered my unofficial mentor as someone like John Lee Dumas, as I was very early in kind of entrepreneurship and I was consuming his sort of content. But then eventually that evolved over time to being people like the amazing Kim Doyle, who has definitely inspired me. But someone who challenges you, someone whose content that you have consumed maybe as well, that challenges you, that speaks to you and that resonates to you, and maybe someone as well who actually has some experience either in your in your area of expertise or in what you're doing. Kim Doyle just says she can't afford Gary Vee. So for me, reaching out to Chris Ducker is he is doing something that I want to do. So he doesn't have experience in my industry. He doesn't work with agencies necessarily, but he has actioned things in his business journey over the last few years that I have wanted to do for a long time. I've had on my goals. I know he's done it. He's done very successfully what he's doing. Therefore, I want his help now over the next year to help me do the things that he's done. Again, being very vague, we will announce that on Wednesday. We have a question in from young Pete Everett, who I'm going to be hanging out with, I think, tomorrow. Pete, hopefully you're coming. Is it tomorrow? I can't remember. Or Wednesday. To come and hang up here above the coffee shop in Wellingborough. Massive.
Right.
And his question is, do you want to read this one, Jeffrey?
How do you keep your team accountable to production protocols? So, I mean, keeping on track with the design, the development stage, and everything like that.
I actually had an interesting call today because we realized we had a problem as an agency, and one of the problems was that I had not documented very well how we resolve a problem, and I realized that two of my staff members had spent 2 hours, so that's two of them spending 2 hours, that's 4 man hours of wasted time trying to resolve a problem on a WordPress website. And I had to go and jump in, which is more time. That's my time as well, which is the most expensive time, and show them within 5 minutes what the process for finding out a problem was. I actually fixed the problem within 5 minutes, and they'd spent the equivalent of 4 hours messing around trying different things and not trying my very smooth process that I'd explained in the past but never documented. So one of the things that we do is we will document, and everybody does track their time. We track our time against projects. We just use a spreadsheet nowadays. I know that sounds so old-fashioned, but we actually have a spreadsheet so that we can understand how much time we're spending on things. So we know how many hours we're spending on support tickets. We know how many hours we're spending on each particular build, because that actually helps us understand how much to charge again in the future for a similar project. If we quote for something and we do something and it takes us a whole week, then we need to make sure we factor that in. So we also have GitHub, like you've mentioned down there, mate, and we have a rule where we will be committing our changes every hour minimum, so that we can kind of roll back and all of that good stuff. And I am the worst for this. So I own the freaking company, and I'm the guy who forgets to commit and goes home. So my team hold me accountable, and they have permission to have a go at me when I get that wrong.
Put yourself out there, huh?
Because I do screw up, and I screw up a lot, because actually I've got all this good advice because I know it all, and I need to freaking apply it a lot of the time. And I don't, sometimes I forget all this stuff. I might look like Mr. Successful Agency Owner who runs the WP Innovator podcast, but I am struggling just as much as anyone else, and I am dropping the ball all the time. And my own team are having to slap me across the face sometimes because I make mistakes, and it's fine because you're human.
Can we all just stop for a second and realize that happens to almost all of us, and we just need to accept it? It's okay. It's okay. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to screw up. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this to myself because I beat myself up like the worst. But who cares? It's okay.
On the stress thing. That's a good thing. We were talking about this just before, weren't we? Where you'd shared a story about someone who had done something, and I was like, what? Oh, you need to email those and tell them this, that, and the other. And anyway, a couple of hours later, you were like, oh, well, actually, I've discovered a little bit more about it, and actually, it's all cool. So that was a very vague description of what happened, but there's a rule that I've applied for the last 6 years, and I learned this off my business partner, Tim, in a different business. But it's to always wait 24 hours before responding to something that is potentially upset you or is contentious. So if a client has sent a rude email or an abrasive email, or they've upset you in any way, and you're going to hit reply, you need to wait 24 hours to get all that crap out of your head. The moaning, go moan to your wife, moan to your colleagues, write a fake email to them where you call them every name in the sun. And please do not do that in your email application, because I once sent one by accident. I have to do it in a Word document, but just get all the anger out. And then 24 hours later, the email you send to them, could save a relationship. It could be the best burn ever, because we all have that moment, don't we, in life when we're like, I wish I'd said this, because you reacted there on the spot. Whereas actually 24 hours later, you could either send an email that saves a relationship, or if you want to fire their ass, then the best burn ever, and you can enjoy every minute of it and savor it and frame the email that you send. But just waiting 24 hours because you found something out that meant that if you'd have sent a snotty email, that could have created a really weird dynamic for the future, couldn't it? But you didn't respond straight away, and great. It worked out. So that was just a little bit of friendly advice. And actually on that, here's one from Kyle. How do you firmly fire a client or a prospect? Have you ever had to fire a client, mate?
Yeah, I've been doing it a lot lately. I know it, and it sucks, but sometimes you have to make those hard decisions, and I'm assuming, Kyle, I'm assuming you're dealing with, someone they're not profitable, or they don't treat you right, or, that there's countless reasons. And you just have to pull the Band-Aid off and talk to them. If it's something that could be repaired, talk to them, communicate. If it can't be repaired, then you just need to be clear and say, this project or this agreement or whatever it is, it doesn't really fit our business model now. We're moving this way, or I mean, you come up with any excuse, but it should be honest, it shouldn't be an excuse. Be honest. I try not to hold back, for better or worse sometimes, but be polite, be honest, and let them know your issues if that's the case. And they might totally respect that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing though, is you got to have like a backup option for them. Maybe you don't have to, but it would be nice, if you want to keep that relationship positive, at least, try to find somebody else you can refer them to, or, sometimes it's maybe you want to build your website on Squarespace. It could be something like that. You can't afford it.
I've said that. I have actually said that. I totally agree, mate. There are a group of people that are just mean to you, and you just have to get rid of them from your life because they're draining. And you can say it politely and firmly, and you don't have to give them a backup plan because you probably don't wish them on anyone else. So they're the only people I would say don't have a backup plan. But I really want to echo what Jeffrey said. If you do need to move someone on because they're a drainer to you with regards to they're too needy, they can't afford you and all of that stuff, then I've sent a very polite email. I've usually had a phone conversation. I find phone conversations are better than an email because email or text can always be misrepresented or misread, misunderstood. So I'll usually have a call. Unless that's not possible, I'll send a very polite email, very carefully worded, but it will be along the lines of my business model has either changed or I don't feel that the two of us work well together with regards to the budget that they have. However, there is this great guy I know on the internet who specializes in this, and would you like me to make an introduction? And until then, I'm still going to support you as well. I can do this X, Y, and Z for you to at least keep you going. I'm not just going to say, get lost, you're done, here's someone else. So, I'll help support that transition, and I'll support the person who's going to become the new guy, because then that always means that they've had a friendly, nice, supportive exit from my business, and the guy I've recommended appreciates the time I'm going to spend with him or her to support them as well, onboarding their new client who is actually probably better suited to them, which is cool.
Preach it.
Preach. Well, thank you very much. I think that's a really good question to end with. So it's French for Finn, isn't it? I'm going to put that on the screen. Hang on. There you go, Finn. There you go, on the screen.
You're going to be fluent by tomorrow. This is great. You learned so much French today.
I know, it's insane. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been wonderful. Jeff is Jeff is a legend, mate. I love how eloquent your answers are. I always find I waffle. I mean well. If you listen to me, you'll eventually find the nuggets of wisdom in there. But for you are really succinct, and your answers have been great. So thank you so much for the time. I can't wait to do another screen share with you. Sorry, another live stream with you. I would recommend everyone who is watching this live, or who is watching the replay, or who is listening to the podcast version of this, to go and join Jeff's group, because Jeff is consistently good with advice. Go check out Digital Agency Profits. Just tap that into Facebook right now and go ahead and join his group. I will put a link in the show notes of the podcast. I'll put a link as well in the comments after of this live stream. But it's Digital Agency Profits. And also, if you go ahead and check the WP Innovator Facebook group, if you are listening before Wednesday the 13th, go and add a reminder, because we are doing a live stream at 4 p.m. GMT. That's 8 a.m. PST, and I don't know what Central Time is or anything. I probably should go do the calculations, but we are making a rather massive announcement. Jeffrey, anything you'd like to? Jeffrey knows what it is, but you're not allowed to say, and no one's allowed to pay you off or anything. I shouldn't have said that, should I?
I was going to start taking bids from the audience, but I know you'll just mute me or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, this was a lot of fun. We had a podcast recently, and I think we're building something good here. We've got a fun little bromance going, but more than that, I just love connecting with all these other agency owners, freelancers, designers, developers. It doesn't matter. We're all in the same group here. We're all in this together. Yeah. Doesn't matter if it's this big or that big. We're having a great time. So thank you for having me. Thank you for setting this up, man. You're the man.
All right. Well, guys, I'm off to go and make dinner. What are you up to now, Jeff?
I'm gonna go have breakfast.
Ooh,
yeah. Nice. I'm gonna heat up this coffee. I'm gonna go get some breakfast. And Maybe take a nap because we were out really late last night.
Yeah, and you were up early, weren't you? So this kind of blows my mind.
Really early.
I'm in the future and you're in the past.
That's weird. You know, one time real quick story before we go. I went over the Meridian line. Is that what they call it? I was flying from Southeast Asia, and it was so weird. I was like, I literally just time traveled. Like literally time traveled. Not physically, but literally time travel. Literally.
All right, guys, I'm going to hit the end broadcast button in a few seconds. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you especially to Jeffrey again for those really good, succinct, clear answers. I've got a lot to learn from you. And we'll see you all Wednesday for the live announcement. And we will see you hopefully in a couple of weeks for our next live broadcast. Me and Jeffrey want to tackle some more questions. I didn't tell him that, but he can't say no now because I've said it live.
I'm in. Okay, well, let's just say though, if we have any suggestions, let's please post them, guys.
Yes,
tell us.
post
right?
suggestions.
What do you guys want to know? What do you want to talk about? What's entertaining?
Yes.
I don't know.
Absolutely. And Jeff may even sing. All right, take care. Bye-bye.